give you glory for all you brought me through. And now I'm ready for whatever you wanna do. I'm moving forward to follow after you. And now I'm ready for whatever you wanna do. Your presence is an open door. So come now, Lord, like never before. Your presence is an open door. So come now, Lord, like never before. I know breakthrough is coming. By faith, I see a miracle. My God, make me a promise and you won't stop now. Hey, I know breakthrough is coming. By faith, I see a miracle. My God, make me a promise and you won't stop now. Oh. Your presence is an open door. So come now, Lord, like never before. Your presence is an open door. So come now, Lord, like never before.
Hey guys, my name is Abed and welcome to Online Service. I'm so glad to have you guys here, and I'll be sharing a few announcements with you guys so that you guys know how to get plugged in. The first announcement is that we have online devos throughout the week. Devotionals are basically ways that we can study the Bible with our tribe groups, and we also share and update each other with what's been going on. It's a lot of fun, and make sure to contact your tribe leaders for more info. The second announcement is that on every last Friday of the month, we will be having a collective devos. It's where all of the tribes, S High, J High, boys and girls, we all combine and do a collective devos together. Don't forget guys, last Friday of the month, 8 p.m. on Zoom. I can't wait to see you guys there. The third announcement is a pretty special one. On the 27th of August, we will be having a BSD takeover. It's where tcyouth will be taking over the BSD area. We will have hangouts in several places and have a special service in BSD. Time and place will be announced later, so stay tuned on our Instagram account at tcyouth for further information. The last announcement is that we have offline services every week, every Saturday at 4 p.m. in Manara City Bank, Pondok Inal, level 9. There's no more online tribes, so if you can make it to offline service, make sure to watch our sermons on YouTube. And yeah, that's all for the announcement. Let's head on with the sermon. Bye bye.
Hello there, teens. Welcome back to another online Saturday service. My name is Rere, if you don't know, and I'm the youth pastor here at tcyouth at the Collective. So if you are new, then obviously a warm welcome to you. But today we're going to be starting a new series called Only the Young. Yes, we're going to be focusing on you young people. I don't think I can consider myself young anymore compared to you guys. So Only the Young applies to you guys. So today, the title of this first week is going to be called, drumroll please, Own Your Faith. That's right, own your faith. Now, before we get started, I wanted to ask you guys a question. Do you guys think that there is so much possibility, potential, and power at your fingertips when you're young? Do you agree or disagree? Write in the chat write in the YouTube chat or YouTube comments that you agree. I personally feel like I agree. I feel like when you're young, you have so much potential, so many possibilities of what you can do. You see, just think about the power that only young people have in our society. Because this phase of life actually comes with endless possibilities. Now you can take a look at in the history books of all the people that have done amazing things when they were young. One of the examples would be the person who created Braille, invented Braille. His name is Louis Braille, or I don't know if he's French. Anyways, he was 15 years old when he created Braille, basically revolutionizing the way visually impaired people are able to interact with the world. Another research that I found is that your generation, Gen Z, and younger generations after that, spends up to $143 trillion a year. Sorry, $1 billion a year, not trillion. That's a lot of money. Still, $143 billion a year is a lot of money, which means that you have so much influence as young people in the way that the companies are creating, marketing, and selling their products. Isn't that crazy? That's how much power you guys have. Another thing is, if you guys notice, like for those who, follow esports and all sorts of games, a lot of you professional gamers are very young. I would say around maybe, like some are like what, 15 to 19, 20. Jay's in the back. Jay, could you confirm that like esports athletes are usually like really, really young? Like 15 to 19, 20 years old? There's a 16-year-old. Wow. World champion 16-year-old. What game? Fortnite? See, you guys, you young people have so much power and potential to change the future, right? And I feel like at this point, I know you guys get the point. The phase of your life that you are in comes with endless possibilities. You can do a lot of things. And you have so much power to influence, and you have to influence the way that the world actually works. I mean, look at TikTok. TikTok has revolutionized the way social media is because of you young people. You see, you have influence to invent the tools to make life better to others and fight for change in the areas where you see injustice happening. Remember a while back, we were talking about injustice. And see, that is a lot of power that you guys have. Referring back to one of my favorite quotes of all time from the late Uncle Ben Parker said to Peter Parker, that's Spider-Man in case you don't know. With great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. But come on, guys. Like, I know you already know this. I know you know about the amount of influence you guys have. And, maybe for some of us, you feel it every day. Deep down that being young gives you a ton of potential that you can have and have so many possibilities in your life. You've heard for years that you can change the world. Like the younger generation are the future leaders, right? And that probably feels really hopeful, but at the same time, it might feel like a lot of pressure for you. But either way, you can't deny that young people are very, very powerful. Now let's take some time to talk about and think about your faith. When it comes to faith, maybe for some of us, some of us feel like our faith is being underestimated. And what I mean by that is, I don't know about you guys, but maybe for some of you, it feels true that sometimes faith doesn't feel like it's filled with power or possibility like the other things your generation gets to be a part of. I mean, I listed out the world-changing things that people your age have done throughout history, including nowadays. But when it comes to faith, sometimes it could feel like all you're being challenged to do is, number one, just show up to a service. Number two, just sing the worship songs during worship. Hopefully you're singing in key. Hopefully. Number three, just talk to your friends for a couple of minutes. And number four, just repeat that same routine over and over and over again throughout 52 weeks of the year. You see, you can check off those boxes for 1 hour, 1 day a week, and that's called faith, right? But the thing is that really all there is to it? Is that all there is to your faith? When it comes to the idea of church and what it means to live out real faith, some of us feel like the low expectation to just show up is really underestimating our potential. I know when I was younger, I felt that way. I felt like if this is all it needed to be, like to have faith, then is that really it? But see, maybe even for others, for the rest of you guys, maybe you feel a totally different way. Maybe you feel like you don't feel underestimated. Instead, you feel overwhelmed by pressure when it comes to faith. And this is exactly what I mean. Maybe for you guys, the pressure shows up, the pressure to show up to church feels like a lot to you, and you feel guilty when you can't be here. I know some of you would message the leaders apologizing, hey, I'm so sorry I can't go to service, and this and that. Maybe that's for you guys. Maybe the pressure of showing up is too much. Maybe you feel a lot of pressure to follow all the rules so that you don't mess up your reputation as a Christian. See, how many of you feel that way? Or just maybe you feel like being a Christian is actually a huge burden instead of something that brings you a lot of joy. That being a Christian is actually a huge burden instead of it being something that brings you a lot of joy. And see, the thing is, even if you're new to this church thing, you might notice pretty quickly that it's easy to feel one of these ways, one of these two ways, whether that's underestimated or overwhelmed. It's really hard to be in the middle. When you're young, every other area of life can feel like it's so full of responsibility and so full of possibility that anything can happen. And you can also feel like you have so much power because you can do this, you can do that. But sometimes our ideas of faith is the opposite of that. It could feel very basic. You see, a lot of the times, even myself, when I was younger, I tend to wonder, is Christianity just supposed to be a life of pressure being put on by other people? Or is it something that we can actually take ownership of? If it's something that where our faith can be taken ownership of. Just like young people have done so many things throughout history that have wound out changing the world. They took ownership of those things, and they took those things and made it their own. Is that something that we can do with our faith? Can faith be bigger and better than the basic version that we feel pressure to fit into? Well, see, in the Bible, there's one person in particular, he lived a couple of thousand years ago, who could definitely relate to being a young person trying to figure out their own faith. Anyone know who that person is? Any of you guys have an idea? If not, and that's okay. But this person's name was Timothy. And he was actually the leader in the early Christian church. See, he was a young guy, most likely younger than many of the people that was following him, because he was very, very young. We don't know a ton actually about what he thought about life, but given the fact that he was a young guy in a leadership position and helping pioneer the early Christian church, we can assume that he also felt the power, the pressure, the possibility like we do when we were younger. when I was younger. You guys are young. Uh, you see, thankfully, he had a great mentor in his life that goes by the name of Paul. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard of Paul. We've just been reading his letters. So yeah, you see, Paul is one of the most influential people to ever live, and the person who wrote most of the second part of the Bible called that's right, New Testament. And what's so cool about this is that Paul actually took the time to write words of encouragement and advice to Timothy. And we get to read these letters because they are a part of the Bible, specifically in 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy. There's one part of the letter that I'd imagine will have meant so much to Timothy and that it can have a big impact on us as young people today. You see, let's read what Paul wrote to Timothy. He said, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." You see, take a moment to just put yourself in young Timothy's shoes. It was his job to tell the older people in the church that they couldn't do certain things. It was his job to tell people with much more life experience what choices were wise, what choices were not. Oh, and imagine the expectations that people must have had of Timothy. There totally could have been people watching his every move, just waiting for him to prove that he was too young, waiting for him to make a mistake, to prove that he was too young for his leadership role. You see, how would you feel in his position? And Paul, being like the top guy, the top dog leader of the day, he writes to Timothy and basically says, hey, don't let other people expect less of you. Don't let other people look down on you. Don't let anyone else set the bar too low for your life. Let me repeat that last one. Don't let anyone set the bar too low for your life. See, instead, Paul tells Timothy to be an example for other people. Lead the way in all sorts of important areas. Set a high bar for yourself. Paul saw the potential and power in young Timothy's example. Paul told Timothy to set an example in the way he talked, the way he behaved, in the way he loved others, in his way of trusting God, and in living with healthy boundaries. You see, all these examples had something in common. They actually show us and tell us that Paul saw something in Timothy. And in his second letter in 2 Timothy, he explains a bit of what he saw. And this is what Paul wrote. He said, I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you also. Paul recognized that Timothy had great examples of faith in his life, like his mom and his grandmother, but that Timothy also had genuine faith of his own. You see, whether he was being underestimated by others or overwhelmed by the misplaced pressure, Timothy understood that his faith was something only he could own. Yes, it may have started as a copy of what he was taught by the people surrounding him, his grandmother, his mother, but eventually it's something that he took ownership and became his own. This kind of ownership actually changed his life. He didn't have to pay attention to the pressures that other people were putting on him because he had a faith of his own. And he owned his faith, meaning that he took his faith personally and took the steps to strengthen it. And see, the thing is, guys, this can be your story too. There is a chance that when it comes to faith, up until this point, that you've either felt underestimated or overwhelmed. Underestimated or overwhelmed. You felt the pressures that people have had to put on you in ways that may have caused your faith to feel either too basic or too much to handle. Either way, we learn from the words of Paul, an example of Timothy, that you can own your faith. Like the title says, you need to own your faith. You see, you aren't meant to let the pressure or lack of expectation from other people define how you relate to God. Just like young people don't wait for permission to change the world, you don't have to wait for permission to make your faith your own. You don't. You can follow the examples of Jesus, do the things he did, and become more like him regardless of whether or not you feel underestimated or overwhelmed right now. You see, here's what that looks like. I want you guys to take note of this, okay? Here's what that could look like for you guys to apply. If you're feeling underestimated because of your faith journey, here are a few steps. Number 1, explore what you believe. You see, this means you can ask the questions you've always had. You should think of yourself and not just take my word or anyone else's word for it when it comes to faith. People like your small group leaders, your tribe leaders, and me, myself, are here to help. But we're not able to make and own your faith for you. That's something you guys got to do yourself. Number 2, move to an everyday faith. Now, here's what I mean by that. It's easy to get in the habit of having a Sunday-only faith, or in our case, a Saturday-only faith, because our service is on Saturday. We know we're supposed to be showing up at church, singing the songs, and go through the motions, but that might be it. And that's a great part of your faith journey, but that shouldn't be it. That's not supposed to be the only part. You see, every day we get the chance to set the example for other people in how we talk, how we act, the way we treat one another, and in how we connect with God. And maybe, just maybe, your start to an everyday faith could look like spending time with God daily. And here's the last thing that you can do and what it looks like. Invite others in. Explore with other people. Explore your faith with other people. Ask questions. I know for a fact that the questions you guys have are also the same questions that other teens would also have. You can't be the only one asking and curious about these questions. Ask your tribe group leader for resources to help you grow in your relationship with Jesus. Ask us your questions. And even if we might not know all the answers, we can always try to figure them out together. You see, go on the journey to build a faith of your own, not one that's just based off of what older people in your life believe. Your belief should be your own. So we need to take that step to be able to make your faith your own. You see, following Jesus is an invitation to possibility, not pressure. If it feels like possibility, then you're probably on the right track. You see, as you live out your life, live out all that it means and all it takes to be young, don't forget that you can own your faith. During these years of life, you have an opportunity to set the tone for the rest of your years the way that you practice your faith. Imagine if your journey with Jesus wasn't based off of somebody else's basic expectations or somebody else's enormous amount of pressure to perform. See, faith isn't always easy, but following Jesus is full of possibilities. Imagine if, as a middle school or high school student, you began to own your faith and experience the full life that Jesus had promised. One day, you won't be young, like me. I'm old. Or at least you guys think I'm old. So don't forget the unique opportunity of this exact moment. Don't forget that the power, the possibility, the option to set the bar high. As young people, I want you guys to make sure that you guys don't forget what that feels like. You see, we're about to close, and as we close and you guys head off into their tribes, there's one question I want you guys to think about. When it comes to faith, have you felt underestimated, or overwhelmed? When it comes to faith, have you felt underestimated or overwhelmed? Now with that, let's close our eyes and close in prayer. Lord, we just want to pray that, like Timothy, we want to be able to own our faith, Lord. That we want to take this and make it our own and take the necessary steps to build it further so that we can set out and live the life that you had called us to. Lord, I pray that we would not get too worried about what other people say about us. I pray that we would not be underestimated or overwhelmed about our faith and what that looks like for us, Lord. I pray that we would be able to put that aside and accept that we need to own our faith. So Lord, I pray that as we head into tribes, that we'd be able to have amazing discussion about owning our faith. And I pray that it would continue to change our lives forever. Lord, we thank you so much. In your name I pray, amen. Well, amen. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you head into our tribes. We have tribes after this. If you don't know what tribes are, it's our small groups. And make sure you contact us if you're not part of a tribe yet. And I will see you guys next week for week 2. Bye, guys.